What's up, everybody? My name is Sai. Police brutality. Touchy with me. So I was basically no, I wasn't raised in the ghetto, but most of my life was in the ghetto. Sometimes by choice. So I've seen a lot of brutality. I've seen a lot of profiling. I've seen a lot of pain in parents trying to bury their children that were not really thieves, but since they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, they got shot. Live bullets. Anyway, this one time. So I went to see a friend. We hanging out. You know how friends be like, we're hanging out and then it's 10. So I'm like, okay, bro, let me go home. We pick up tomorrow. So I decide to take the main road. Mistake number one. I should have taken the other road, the shortcut. Anyone that knows the ghetto know that there's shortcuts like everywhere. So this one time I'm like, okay, let me not take the shortcut because there's a disco matanga going on around that area. So I don't want to be harassed. I don't want no one talking shit to me. I just want to go home and sleep. So I take the main road. Dumb shit. Dumbest shit ever. I walk about 2 minutes away from the house. I take a bend and then it's boom, police in a Land Cruiser. I tried not to look at them because well it's the ghetto, so when you look at the police it's like making eye contact threatens them or something. So I went I tried to go past them. I went past them a bit and then they were like, oh madam. So me being the Kenyan I am, the nice girl, I was like, hey, how are you officers? They said we're fine. They told me come here. One of them got off the driver's seat and came down and stood there waiting for me to come to him. So I was like, okay. Walked up to the guy, and then he was like, get in the van, in the Land Cruiser. And I'm like, what? Why? He's like, get in the Land Cruiser. I told him, officer, I'm trying to go home. And, ghetto, they have this thing where past some time the gate is closed, so you cannot access your house. Or you have to wake someone up. And I was not up for that shit. I was not planning to wake someone up because that guy that we used to wake up to open the gate was really mean. So I was like, okay, officer, I gotta go home. I don't want to be locked out. And the guy was like, no, you have to go with us to Kilimani. And I'm like, I don't want to go. I just want to go home. So the other officer, the one that was in there, the passenger seat, gets off and comes to around to where I am. So he tried to get me from behind, goes in my jacket pockets, checks, finds my keys, and takes them, throws them in the van, in the Land Cruiser. And I'm like, what? Why are you throwing my keys in the Land Cruiser? I just want to go home. At that time, it's about 10:15. It's not really late in the ghetto at that time because, people like to roam. So people can clearly hear me. I saw someone at the balcony somewhere looking, and she called someone, and they were just coming to see what was happening, not really doing anything about it because they're scared of the police. So I told this guy, I'm not getting in. Almost immediately, there's this group of young people that came running to the main road, and behind them is the police. So clearly they were waiting for those people. Oh, they were trying to round up a group of people, and they mistook me for one of them. So I'm like, okay, I gotta go. So these people, they got put in the Land Cruiser, and I told one of them, please give me those keys in the Land Cruiser. I just want to go home. So this officer, among with the other officers, the ones that just joined them, there were like 5 of them, they started beating me. I mean, like beating, serious beating. I was beat so bad I could not sit well for say a week because mostly they got my back. I tried to hide the face and everything. There was kicks, there was nyahunyo, there was slaps. At some point this nigga tried to steal my phone. I don't even know him. I tried to look at the badge, but they were wearing jackets over them, those green things over them. So they beat me, and everyone else in the Land Cruiser was just sitting and watching, not knowing what to do. Actually knowing what to do, but not really having the power to do it because they themselves were in a position they could not help out. They just sat there, looked at me, felt sad for me, I think. But really, that was painful. Anyway, after about 1 hour and a half, this one officer, He was just standing at the side when they were beating me, participating by asking me questions like, where were you going? And I tried to see, I saw that this guy was reasonable, so I tried to raise this to him. I asked him, how would you feel like if your child was just walking home from their friend's house in another place, like not the projects, somewhere else, in an estate somewhere? How would you feel if they were harassed because they were just walking home? They were just trying to get home and be safe. So this guy looks at me, and this whole time he's just looking at me. He looks nice, like how you can feel humanity in people. This guy had some of it left in him. So he's like, let this girl go. She's wasting our time. And for a minute there, I was like, why? Why did you not say this like 30 minutes ago, 1 hour ago? Like, you all just had to take a piss. You all just had to be sadistic. You all just had to enjoy this moment of dating a human being. Like, I pay them. It's my taxes that pays them. But they handled me like I was some, I don't know, I don't even know those bad words, man. So after he said that, they let me go. Actually, they chased me down the road a bit, and as I was looking back to see if they're still chasing me, there was a pole in front of me. That shit hit my head bad. I fell down flat, but I could not stay down to feel the pain, so I just stood up, not to feel the pain per se, but I didn't want to stay down because they would catch up with me and beat me some more. So I just stood up and ran again with a big bump in the middle of my forehead. Anyway, I don't like thinking about that. It's cool, it's not cool, but what can we do? And to tell you the truth, I have experience. You were with me during the last encounter with the police. I have experienced that. With police though, it depends on where they find you. They find you in the ghetto, they gon' kick your ass. They found you in the suburbs, they will ask questions, try to level with you, try to understand the situation. But in the ghetto, they profile you for a thug. They profile you for a person that like, they don't take the ghetto life or the street life, because I've been arrested on the street too, over a misunderstanding. Not even a misunderstanding, for profiling again, for being profiled as a person that is up to no good, while I was just minding my business. So police brutality, it's something I have my my bad days with, but I hope someday they start to respect the office. I mean, with the office, we give them the power. Without us, they don't have jobs.
Oh no. All we want to do is take the chains off. All we want to do is break the chains off, yeah. All we want to do is be free. All we want to do is be free. All we want to do is take the chains off. All we want to do is break the chains off, yeah. All we want to do is be free. All we want to do is be free.
Yeah, so this is my story in terms of having encounters with subtle racism while I was abroad in the UK. So when I was studying abroad, and I was there for almost 1 year doing my masters, there would be times where, even as I'm walking to class or as I'm coming back from class, I would get these looks from people, from white people. It would either be a look of, I don't really know how to describe it, maybe a look of kind of like surprise mixed with disgust, if there's such a thing. But it wouldn't be outright. Like, you wouldn't see it, on their face, but you could tell there was an energy shift. Like there's this day that I was coming back from class, and this was at the end of the week. It was a Friday, so I was coming back pretty late, maybe around 4 or 5 p.m. And that's so yeah, that was pretty late. And there are all sorts of people who were going around, just moving around. Like in the UK, you have forms of transport. You have people who have their own motorcycles. You have bus transportation. People can walk. People can use bicycles. So there was this certain, I guess, middle-aged white guy who was always, racing up and down with his bike, and he would do it every Friday, every Saturday. So in this particular instance, it felt as though as he was cycling past me, as I was walking back to my place, that he shot me a look. And even though he had sunglasses, like I could feel him staring right at me. And for a second, I felt nervous. Like it's a biker dude. So I'm like, if this was maybe later on in the evening, it would have been a different story. Maybe he could have chased me down with his bike. So that was one instance of subtle racism that I went through. And then the second one, I was walking with a couple of my roommates, not really roommates, my apartment, my neighbors in my apartment. So we were just walking. We went to the store. We bought what we needed to buy, and as we were walking back, there was a group of kids. I think they were out of town. They were driving in a convertible. One of my other neighbors actually was black also, but he was just younger than me. And so I didn't really hear what they said, but I knew that it was something racial towards the two of us. And we were just walking back, and we were with another friend of ours who was, I guess you can say, mixed, because I think he has a parent who's Asian, and the other parent is I guess white or black. Like I never really found out, but so they said something as they were driving past, and of course I looked at my friend and he was like, did you hear that shit? And he was like, nah, just ignore them, like this, they're just kids. And I took it personally for a while, because I was like, if I was the one walking alone, what are the chances are that they could have been louder, or they could have even thrown something at me, or thrown something at even one of my other friends if it was them. Like just the small subtle things that you don't notice. And the UK has its own history of racial tension, so that kind of hit hard for me, which is why I kind of had this thing in my mind. I was like, what if I was living here like permanently? Like would my life every day be just made up of subtle racist moments, or would I have an actual moment where my life would be in danger? Because by the time I was leaving to come back to Kenya is when a lot of stabbings were going on in London. So I was like, what if it was me living in London and this happened to me? So I don't know. There is police brutality, and that also saddens me. It makes me sick. There's racial profiling, there's racism, but there's also subtle racism, and all of it mixed together is just rubbish. It's trash, and I wish people could do better, but if they don't want to listen to us, I wish things were different. That's what I'm gonna say. I wish things were different.
All we want to do is take the chains off. All we want to do is break the chains off, yeah. All we want to do is be free. All we want to do is be free. All we want to do is take the chains off. All we want to do is break the chains off, yeah. All we want to do is be free. All we want to do is be free.
So a few days ago, there were protests. There were two protests. There was a Black Lives Matter protest outside of the US Embassy, and there was a police brutality protest outside of Parliament. Now here's the thing. The police, the law enforcement, they dispersed the police brutality protest. They were tear gassed, and 2 people were actually arrested, while the Black Lives Matter protest was left untouched. These white people, first of all, the irony of white people fighting for black rights. I'm not saying it's impossible, but crickets. So these white people were so confident that they wouldn't be touched that they came out with their pets. They came out with picnic chairs, they were cool. And that protest was actually not dispersed. But the police brutality, tear gassed, people weren't sure about the safety. This is a protest that I was actually meant to go to. And a massive shout out to Sobu, who was present, Sobu and Kafu. Both of these guys, creatives, have been victims of police brutality, and they featured on last week's episode of the podcast. If you haven't checked it out, go ahead and check it out. So this is a part 2 of that. So shout out to Sobu and Kafu who were present at the protest. I was meant to go, but I had some issues, and by the time I arrived, the cops had already done their thing. Now, Black Lives Matter is deemed an American problem. It's a foreign affair, right? And police brutality is deemed a Kenyan problem. So Kenyan cops are not ready to be accountable for their actions. They're not ready to be held to book about why they're doing certain things that they're doing, right? But then when Black Lives Matter becomes a protest because it's deemed an American problem, the cops are like, nah, we can't touch them. And that's white privilege right here at home. I recently just started watching When They See Us. I started watching it yesterday actually. And this tells the story of 4 boys. I just watched the first episode, but it tells the story of 4 boys who were wrongly convicted in 1989 and accused of violently raping and assaulting a woman. And as I watched the first episode, man, my heart broke because of how crooked the system is, how broken the system is. Like, does the system exist in the first place? Let's just start there. So you see these kids being beaten up. They're 14 years old, 15 years old. The kids are being beaten up. They're being told, like, this is how the story went. Coercion, the violence was used. And then interrogation of a minor without the presence of their parent or a guardian. Like, these kids don't even know what they were doing or what they were saying. So at the end of the day, because you're scared and you really want to get back to normal, or you want to go back home to your parents, you do what they say because you think that's the right way, or that's the only way for you to be safe, for you to go home. My heart really broke at this parent who was like, you're gonna do as they say. And he was having an argument with this kid. He tried to talk to the cops, he tried to talk to the supervisors. It was like, yo, that's a good kid, he's my kid, he would never do something like that. But they weren't having any of it. So for him to get back his black son, for him not to lose his son to the system, he told him, do as they ask. What a heartbreaking conversation. What a heartbreaking conversation. And as I watched When They See Us, I later came across the story of George Steiny Jr. He was the youngest American to be sentenced to the death penalty and executed. He was executed with over 5,000 votes. This is a 14-year-old who was accused of murdering 2 white girls who were, I think, 7 and 11. And throughout the trial, he maintained that he was innocent. His jury was all white, and I think they made a decision in like 10 or 20 minutes. Imagine the cruelty. Imagine the cruelty, fam. The fact that these people were not even bothered to get the backstory, find out what the truth really is. 70 years later, actually, they said that, he was proven innocent. Someone just wanted to punish him because of his skin color. Now, here's the thing. The prison system in America is privately owned, which means it's a business and it must be filled at all times. That's why you hear people saying that the system was made to keep black people locked up. They make opportunities for black people less. And so, as a result of these opportunities being less, people resort to crimes. You're a boy on the block trying to sell drugs, to keep your family alive, to keep your kids alive. People are forced or are shown that there is no way for a black man to make it out the hood, man. Except through crime. You're either in prison or you're dead. Now come back to Kenya. The Nairobi Remand Prison in industrial area, which is apparently the worst prison that you can be in this country. It was established in 1911. Now, get this. Kenya was declared a colony in 1920, and criminal laws and the Penal Code and the Criminal Procedure Code was enacted in 1930. Now, what does this mean? It means the prisons were created. They were made before the laws. And this was done by the settlers who came here for business. And now the work of the colonial government was to facilitate extraction, was to ensure that The prison was fully stacked at all times. Now back to the bullshit education that I mentioned on the previous episode preceding this. So I'll go to school for like a long period of my life, and they're gonna teach me how to mix chemicals in chemistry. Chemicals that I've never come across in my life since I graduated. But there's no unit or course to teach me about human or civil rights. There's no unit telling me how should I handle myself or teaching me how to handle myself in case a cop pulls up on me. What am I supposed to do? What is the procedure that the cop is supposed to follow if they stop me or if they pull up on me? There's no unit teaching me what my rights are if I do find myself on the wrong side of the law. And where am I supposed to get that knowledge if all they're gonna teach me in history is about, people that died a long time ago? They're not gonna tell me how they died. They're not gonna tell me why they died. They're not gonna tell me the evil things they did. They're only gonna tell me about the great things they did. And this is what J. Cole said on one of his records. He said, the thing about the writers of history is they always seem to omit their sins, which is why until you get to educate yourself, you won't find out about the sins of the founding fathers worldwide. This is not a problem just here at home. Yeah. According to history, all these statues around the world were created to immortalize or to eternalize historic figures, right? So for someone like Tupac has a statue. It's hideous as fuck, but it's still there. Tupac was considered a revolutionary artist, right? He gets a statue. Cecil Rhodes, who was a philanthropist, and he served as prime minister in British Southern Africa between 1890 and 1896. He was a philanthropist and still has a Rhodes Scholarship at Oxford University. Does he have a statue? I'm not sure about that. But the statues have started being taken down worldwide, right? And these statues being taken down are of controversial historic figures. Robert Milligan's statue was actually taken down outside the London Museum. He was a slave owner. Christopher Columbus, a 93-year-old statue, was taken down in Virginia. In Alabama, the Confederate General Robert E. Lee, his statue was also taken down, and now officials are actually considering renaming schools after Confederate heroes instead. In history, we're told about Adolf Hitler, who murdered Jews, but we're not told about King Leopold, who killed 10 to 15 million people during his reign in Congo. White privilege versus Black Lives Matter. Now, since all these statues are being taken down of these historic figures, it's like people trying to erase these people from history. But does that mean that we have forgotten all the things that they have done? More than just taking down these statues, it is up to us to educate ourselves and those around us and our children about the real truth, about the history. I saw someone on Twitter say, like, yo, it's about time we took down the Kenyatta statue and also start renaming, things named after Jomo Kenyatta, and rename them to Kenya. Because if you do teach yourself, this is not in history. In history, they'll tell you he was the greatest leader of all time. But when you teach yourself the actual truth, you get to find out that he really did a lot of whack shit. So, as we continue the protests and speaking up about Black Lives Matter and police brutality, let us not forget that the agenda of these two movements is the same. They're all fighting for human rights. But one is considered foreign, the other is considered local. And we're so quick, or we're so willing to take in foreign problems without discussing our problems right here at home, which is why we should be relentless in the fight towards police brutality. The number of deaths have spiked. The number of victims has spiked. People who have been tortured physically and psychologically in the hands of the 5-0 has spiked. So we shouldn't give up on it. Go out on social media, talk about it, tag these people, use the hashtag #EndPoliceBrutalityKE. If there's a protest and you're able to attend it, get out there and do it. If you're not going to fight for yourself, at the very least, fight for your children and your children's children and the generations to come. in conclusion, I want to ask this. Why is law enforcement here in the 254 so against police brutality, but so for Black Lives Matter? Both of these protests, both of these movements have the same agenda. They're both fighting for human rights. They're both addressing human rights issues, but one is considered foreign and the other is considered a local problem. Wake up, Kenya. Wake up, Africa. We shouldn't keep quiet about these injustices. And honestly, I thought like more celebrities will be talking about this, more people will be talking about this, but so far only a handful are, and I don't know what the problem is. I don't know why there's fear, but listen, start where you are. Start with your voice. Use your power. That is what you got. Your power, you've got your voice and your vote. That is what you have got. Educate yourself. Get on the internet. Buying bundles is very cheap nowadays. Educate yourself on the system. So when you find yourself at loggerheads with the system, you know how to get yourself out. Or when you're making decisions that could impact your life greatly, you know how to make the proper decision when you're going to vote. I'm going to ask this as I finish. You've seen what is happening right here at home as far as police brutality is concerned. I'm pretty sure everyone has had an encounter with the cops, or most of us, a huge percentage of us, have had an unpleasant encounter with law enforcement. So let me ask you, why are you silent on the injustices happening right here at home? I'd like to know. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of the podcast. This is POPup number 4. Massive shout out to everyone who has checked this out. And if you do agree with the conversation on the podcast, do share on social media. You can always tag me at JustRubyV with your comments, with your thoughts. If you have differing or similar opinions or something that you could add on to this podcast that I could feature it on the next, make sure that you do share on social. And of course, share this podcast with as many people as possible. It is about time we educate ourselves on the system. It is about time we take matters into our own hands and learn about the system. It is up to you and me to impact this knowledge on other people as well. So go ahead, share. If you're checking this out on YouTube, do like, drop a comment, subscribe to my channel. If you're checking it out on Anchor, you can favorite. If you're checking out whatever platform you're checking out this podcast on, I do appreciate your time, and I hope that you're willing to share this so we can reach more people. Thank you.